This is how modern emo drums want to sound. That's a big fat kick with a punchy snare. However, not paying attention to the right things can make them sound like this. The kick is far too clicky and thin, more suited to fast metal music. Now let me play those two examples again back to back so you can really hear what I'm talking about. In this video, I'll show you how to pick the right drum samples to get this modern emo drum sound. By paying attention to these small but important details when choosing drum samples and then mixing them in with the guitars and bass, your music will sound pro quality and not like a demo or bedroom mix. Just quickly, I'd like to let you know that I record and mix emo, pop punk, metal, and everything in between. So if you would like me to mix your next release, then please head over to terrybeckleyrecording.com and contact me there. Tell me about your music or just say hey, and I will get back to you. The link is in the description. Right, so let's start with picking the right drum samples for your song. Now this is only really relevant once you have A, written the song and programmed the drums, and B, recorded your guitar and bass. So my advice here is to have, at the very least, a rough version of your finished guitar tone. Maybe not the exact settings dialed in, but definitely have the amp head and cab locked in. Obviously, that's not a problem if you have recorded real amps, but with amp sims, having that tone in the ballpark is crucial to getting the right drum sample. So for example here, I'm using the Archetype Nolly with the 5150 head and the matching cab with the Shure 57 mic. And then for the bass, I'm using Parallax. Obviously, I haven't tweaked much of the amps or anything. I just know that generally that's the kind of sound I want, which is really going to help me pick out the right drum sample. Now, you're going to want to use a drum sampler that allows you to easily and quickly audition the different kick and snare drums so that you can rifle through and use your instincts to decide which is best suited. I've chosen Hertz Drums for this song as I love how you can click through all the different drum choices easily. And if you have multiple sample packs, you can mix and match drums from different packs, which I think is pretty cool. If you've watched any of my earlier videos, you'll have seen me use Modern and Massive for kick and snare. Another great plugin, but of course I got much more choice with Hertz Drums here, as I can mix and match the 3 different packs that we have, and I can audition them all really easily to make that process really smooth. Okay, so what should you be listening for, and what makes a sample well suited? For all distorted guitar genres, you're going to want to focus firstly on the attack point of the kick. Make sure that you like how the top end of the kick or the presence of the kick sounds and gels well with the guitars and bass. This is completely subjective and you will naturally feel what you like and dislike, and you should trust yourself with this and go with your gut. Secondly, with modern emo music, the kick has a big fat bottom end. So you're going to want to listen to make sure the weight of the kick can be felt through the guitars and bass. So let's have a play around and I'll arrive on a sample that I like. So here I've chosen the Maple 20x14 from the blue pack. The top end of the kick doesn't stick out or clash with the guitars. It doesn't feel like it's completely separate from the rest of the mix. Plus the weight of the kick is amazing and you can really feel it. And I haven't even begun to actually mix the bass and the guitars yet, but so I know that that low end is going to come through. That's why it's a good idea to have your tones already picked out, because you can make an informed decision. Okay, now for the snare. we go. I've gone for the walnut 6.5 by 14 from the red pack this time. I felt like it had a great balance of low end punch around the 200 hertz region and a great sort of sizzly top end as well. Wasn't too bright, wasn't too dull. I feel like that'd be perfect. So I've chosen my samples well, which has put me in a really advantageous position for mixing. So let me jump over to the mix and show you a very important factor when mixing that allows for big, weighty kicks to come through and not sound muddy or eat up the rest of the mix with too much bass. Okay, let's remind ourselves of what the mix sounded like. That's a weighty kick. It's not eating up all the headroom. I haven't just boosted the low end. It just has room down there from the bass and guitars to really come through. Kick drums sell record. I think I heard someone say that once. Okay, so this is the EQ for the bass. Simply boosting the low end of the kick will get you into all kinds of trouble by eating up other frequencies, blowing up your levels so you can't get the mix loud, and making the mix lose its bite by being unbalanced in the low end. Therefore, you need the low end to be big and not blocked by or fight with the low end of the guitars, but more importantly, the low end of the bass. So let's have a look here. I've got this high pass filter. You can see it's a gentle cue. I don't want to kill that part of the bass because you'll lose its weight. I just want to reduce it and tuck it under the kick. So frequency wise, the kick is below the bass, but in that area, I want the kick to be more prominent than the bass. You can get more of that sort of weight from the bass higher up here, sort of 80, 70, 80 onwards. So I'll just show you what I'm doing to the low end of the bass. You can see I'm just sort of pulling back on those rumbly frequencies down there. In fact, if I turn this off and on, you'll see that you might lose a bit of that sort of bigness of the bass, but it's important that you make that space for the kick. In fact, it's so subtle, you're not really losing anything. So these other points here, you can see I've notched out at about 60 hertz. That is because I found that the kick had power around 60 hertz. So if we scroll up to the kick here and grab the EQ, you'll see here I've got a boost on the kick at 60 hertz. So I've boosted the kick and I've cut the bass at those same points. Here, that's sort of where the energy of the kick lives. Then I've done the same with this cut here around 76 hertz because that's where there was good energy from the bass. So if we go back to the bass, you should see a boost around that same, 76. You can really hear the note of the bass, and then the kick isn't going to eat that up every time it comes in and out. This one here is just a bit of mud from that's why it's a dynamic EQ. So by doing that, you've put the kick below the bass, and then you've notched them out in the right places relative to each other, which allows them to live together, giving you a big, strong low end in your mixes. In other genres, you might hear about sidechaining the kick and bass, where every time the kick comes in, it's ducking the bass. That's not good for this kind of music. You need a constant, consistent low end. Now we can do a similar thing with the guitars. It won't need quite as much work. With the guitars, you can just roll off the frequencies that are going to be affecting the bass and the kick areas without losing too much of the actual low end of the guitars. Then what I like to do is boost where I hear the actual power of that low end happening so that it sort of counteracts anything that might be lost in this high pass filter. Yeah, if you listen to me take this high pass filter off, you'll hear how muddy it gets. I'll show you what this frequency range sounds like so you can hear what I'm listening for when I try and decide where the power of that low end is coming from. You can hear it is quite rumbly, of course, because you're only listening to one frequency band, but you can hear that that's where the note and the power is. So without doing that, you swallow up the low end of your kick and you get clicky, thin kicks, which is not where emo music is right now. There's big fat kicks. So I hope you saw the benefits of using a sampler like the one from Hertz Drums. I will link to their store in the description. Unfortunately, I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. And I hope you heard that allowing the low end of the kick to come through will set your songs apart from those that sound like demos, because that sort of clicky, stifled kick is really what gives away an amateur mix. Makes your drums sound fake, makes them sound like samples. And remember, if you want me to mix your next song, EP, or album, then hit me up at terrybeckleyrecording.com. I will get back to you. I'll see you at the next one.